Band Life Podcast! You're listening to the Band Life Podcast, your number one guide on how to run a profitable band. Here are your hosts, Pete Stannard and Adam West, the Wizard of Rock! Producers in hip-hop, they will produce the music themselves. So like beats and everything. So they're kind of like songwriters, and then the rappers come in and they put over the top of that. In our world, it's very different. So when I'm producing music as a music producer and I work with other bands, depending on what level that band is at, we will go over how things are going to be recorded, how things are going to be mixed, how things are going to be mastered. And I advise how that's going to happen. We look at the songs themselves, and the songs are edited in a way that fits their release strategies and their music placement strategies.
Right.
But also, if they have record label representation, then I'm in communication with the A&R department in there. And generally, that's where the music placement and all that sort of stuff is coming from. The band has obviously generally has relinquished that task, shall we say, to the record label, and the record label's going, okay, we need an edit for radio, we need an edit for licensing because it's going to be going on this sort of advert and things like that, so we need like a 30-second edit to go on to advertising. Okay. We need an edit because we got this music supervisor involved and it's going to go onto this TV show and to this film and stuff like that, so we need versions that's not got any vocals and that sort of thing. And I'm that bridge between the band and the record label, but also creatively as well. From a creative standpoint, I have to take that band's vision and I have to kind of complement it with what the record label
That's
if
they're signed, yeah.
That's if they're signed, yeah. If there's a record label involved, right. The record label are going to be going, okay, we've made an investment, we need to get that investment back. Can this song sell?
Okay, so in terms of, basically there's a couple of more subgroups there from producer then. So you could add that in and say, well, if you're signed, it opens up a lot more, which obviously for me, I'm not. So that would be a case of it's half and half. So I'll sit with the chap in the studio and we'll do pretty much what you were talking about. You might throw some suggestions, we put them in and so on and so forth.
Yeah, and sorry to interject, but the bands that aren't signed, we still, when I work with bands, we still look from that perspective of, okay, you're going to have your full-length version, but does that full-length version fit with what your release strategy is? So if you're looking to go onto playlists on Spotify, for example, well, if every song on that playlist is 3.5 minutes and it's punchy and everything else, then we'll do an edit of that song to fit that playlist. It doesn't mean that you don't have the full-length version. The full-length version just gets distributed in other areas. So the full-length version will be going on to physical copies or for radio if it fits the criteria of radio. If they want to go onto radio, well, do we have to trim that song back down? So I'm working with the band they're based in Hawaii at the moment, and the song that I think should be the single is like 5.5 minutes long. But we're looking to get radio play. I've got a meeting with them Friday night, actually, and we're going to discuss this stuff. And the song that will be this, that I think should be the single, is far too long for radio. It needs to be cut down. We need to lose around about 2 minutes of the song somewhere. Wow. So we're gonna have to cut out parts of the intro. We're gonna have to lose, there's like 2 guitar solos in it, so we're gonna have to lose at least 1 guitar solo, maybe look to cut down the other one. We're gonna cut down in the bridge and that sort of stuff. And it doesn't mean that full length 5.5 minute song isn't going to be released. It doesn't mean it's going to get shelved anywhere. It just means that it's going to go onto the physical, or it's going to be on Spotify just as a main song. It's not the song that's going to get pitched to playlists and things like that.
Well, that's interesting that you work with the bands doing that, because I think, I'm not sure if the chap I work with would do that if I threw it into the mix, but I think he would agree that if you're going to have a radio play, then yeah, for me playing a 7-8 minute track, it's not going to work. But I mean, you're not going to get
the broadcast time. Yeah.
So in terms of the no, this is interesting. So in terms of the playlists, if people want to get their music on there, you were looking at some of the bands that I follow that have nothing shorter than 8 or 10 minutes condensing down a doom metal track. So I'm not sure if any of them actually do it, which is an interesting point, because
from the playlist point of view, that depends on the playlist. If you're going onto a doom playlist and all the other songs on that playlist are 8 minutes long, then fine, that's great. But if the playlist is all the other songs are 3.5 minutes and it's more like a radio edit, then the chances of you getting onto that playlist, the curator of that playlist is going to go, well, I can't, you don't fit in this playlist now because you've got an 8 minute song and everything else is 3 minutes. So you got to work in that way. I look at Spotify like it's, especially the playlists, I look at it like it's a radio station. It's exactly the same mentality to it. You have to be able to fit that playlist. If you don't fit the playlist, the curator's going to go, it doesn't work.
I don't know where our music fits. That's the problem.
That's where research comes in and working with producers come in.
Well, then we'll be talking a bit more then.
Okay. Bad Life Podcast!